everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 bringing to you another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And October 25th, 2009 marks 16 years ago that history was made at WWE Bragging Rights 2009 when Batista snapped and viciously attacked his longtime tag team partner slash best friend Rey Mysterio, thus turning heel. And for today's special edition, I am going to be discussing the success and failures of Batista's heel run from October 2009 to May 2010. So, Batista turning heel at WWE Bragging Rights was quite a shocking moment, but at the same time, for me, was very much welcomed because I felt that this was something that Batista really needed, not just as an on screen performer, but for his career overall. Because after he turned babyface in February 2005, when he chose to challenge Triple H for the world title and left Evolution, he became one of the hottest baby faces in the company and one of the biggest stars ever in the Ruthless Aggression era. But I felt as time went on, Batista was slowly starting to get a little bit stale as a babyface. Even when he was feuding with The Undertaker, which was an epic rivalry, Batista got booed and The Undertaker got cheered. Now, a lot of that mostly was because, The Undertaker is so loved and so respected. They're not going to go against the dead man. It just wasn't going to happen. And even though Batista was a babyface during that feud, he was booed. And Batista played up to that. He behaved like a heel. Undertaker did show some moments where he acted like a heel, but Batista was much more heel like than The Undertaker. I looked at that as Undertaker was just being Undertaker. That's just who he is. And with Batista, for the most part, I've always felt that as great as Batista is as a babyface, he's so much better as a heel. And then as we got into 2008, I really started to feel that the writing was on the wall, and I thought, God, I really need to see Batista turn heel again because for me, that's where he's really at his best. Because, you know, when you look at John Cena and Batista and their booking, they were booked very differently. Batista, he was the cool, badass animal, man of few words, and he would just kick your ass. John Cena, on the other hand, he was, the big superhero, always doing it for the kids. So you could clearly see that these two were booked differently, they were looked at differently, and as time went along, they were pushing John Cena much more to be the top guy. Batista, while he was a top guy, he wasn't the face of WWE. Whereas John Cena, he was marketed and pushed as the face of the company. So a heel turn was definitely needed for Batista. Now, heading into WWE Bragging Rights 2009, we had a fatal four way for the world title. Undertaker defending his world title against CM Punk, Batista, and Rey Mysterio. So CM Punk was the heel, of course, and Batista and Rey Mysterio were best friends slash tag team partners, and they even held the tag team titles at one time as well. So I thought to myself, okay, could this be the moment Batista actually turns heel or not? But, they never really showed any hints that Batista was going to turn. It was always implied, okay, it's every man for himself. So Batista, anytime he would try to win the world title, Rey Mysterio would stop him. Batista would get very angry about it, but they still would work together. So after Batista was pinned, Undertaker retained the world title. Batista looked really pissed off. And I thought to myself, okay, he's going to snap. Maybe not at the pay per view, maybe he might snap on SmackDown. Who knows? And you could really feel this chill in the air that something was going to happen. You just didn't know what. And Batista put his arm around Rey Mysterio, got on the mic. Obviously, he was out of breath because, he just finished competing in a fatal four-way match. And I'll never forget those words. I'm sick and tired of being screwed. I'm sick and tired of my best friend stabbing me in the back. I'm going to rip your head off. I still remember that. And Rey Mysterio, I love Rey Mysterio, but he's not what you would call the brightest guy. When someone says to you, I'm going to rip your head off, and the person who says that to you looks like Batista, has that look like he's going to murder you, I would run a mile. Batista clotheslined Rey Mysterio. I thought his head fell off his shoulders. That's how vicious that clothesline was. And he threw him out of the ring. He started choking him. And even though this is a heel turn, the fans were cheering. It was so sick. The fans were cheering. And Rey Mysterio, this little guy looking up at this monster called Batista, saying, Please, Dave, take it easy, man. Take it easy. And Batista screaming at him, You're supposed to be my friend. You know? Oh my God. And he threw him across the barricade, kicked his head off. Wow. Epic stuff. Really, really epic stuff. I thought, okay, Batista is a heel now. This is where we need to be. This is Batista at his best. Man of few words, kicks ass, and leaves the way it should be. Now, what makes this heel run different to Batista's previous heel run when he was part of Evolution was in Evolution, Batista was a man of few words. He didn't really speak. Ric Flair and Triple H would do all the talking for him. Randy Orton would cut some promos, and Batista would just stand there in silence, looking like a monster, which was what his job was. He was the muscle of Evolution. He was there to look intimidating and essentially take out anyone who tried to mess with Evolution. He did that to perfection. I still say, as far as a faction, that was Batista's best work, for a faction. He was really good in that role. This Batista, on the other hand, he had, no pun intended, evolved. This was a much more refined, mature, sophisticated Batista. And what made this Batista more dangerous than Evolution Batista was Batista had already learned his lessons from Triple H and Ric Flair. So this was an animal with intelligence. Now, in Evolution, Triple H would often give orders to Batista and say, I want you to take out Shawn Michaels tonight. Can you do that? Batista would just nod his head and do his job. Ric Flair would kind of like calm him down and advise him to channel that rage by saying things like, Listen, big man, you're Batista. I want you to take that anger and that rage and take it out on Chris Jericho. Do it, big man. Batista would be like, nod his head. This Batista, he had intelligence, he was more calculating, more smart. He wasn't stupid. So when you put all of that together, that makes Batista a very dangerous heel because I wouldn't really expect Batista to go back to being the kind of silent heel that he was in Evolution. I'm not saying that wouldn't have worked. It probably would have done, but Batista has showed a lot more personality after Evolution. And I think to go back to that silent persona that Batista had in the early stages of his career, while it would have been okay, but I think it probably would have been looked at as a step backwards. So this Batista we had was a lot more mature, a lot more sophisticated, and a lot more smarter and a lot more deadlier. He still retained some of that silent killer instinct that he had in Evolution, but now he was his own thinking man's animal. And I think that worked very well for his heel persona. I loved his heel run as part of Evolution, but he didn't do a lot. He was just a monster doing the bidding of Triple H and Ric Flair, and he would look after Randy Orton, which was fine. It worked out very well for him. I really enjoyed Batista's work as a heel from 2009 to 2010. I just think he was very entertaining on the mic, a real badass in the ring, man of few words, and very cold as well. That's one thing I liked about his heel persona during this time. He was really cold and uncaring, and some of the things he would come out with was just like, whoa, okay, that's a little bit too far. If anybody else had said that, you would be incredibly disappointed. But when it came from Batista's mouth, you look at it like, well, I'm not going to tell him to his face. I'm staying out of his way. So Batista, during this time, at least for the first month or so, he wouldn't really say much. He wouldn't really explain why he attacked Rey Mysterio. He had those cool moments where he had the spotlight on him and he would stand there in the ring and everyone would wait for an explanation and he would just drop the mic and walk off. They were really entertaining moments. And he went into a fantastic program against Rey Mysterio and he just absolutely killed Rey Mysterio. He absolutely killed him. And they had a great match at Survivor Series 2009. And one of Batista's best promos was when Rey Mysterio begged him and said, "Come on, big man, look at everything we've been through together. What would Eddie say?" And Batista would say, "Eddie's dead. Get over it," and just leave. I was like, wow. And Batista completely changed his look. He brought back the shades, started wearing more leather jackets. He really looked like a badass animal. And after he would get done with Rey Mysterio, they would still run into each other, butting heads. He had another feud with The Undertaker, which led to a chairs match at TLC 2009 for the world title. It was a great feud. I still think their 2007 rivalry was better, but it was a nice change of dynamic because that feud, both of them were baby faces, even though Undertaker got cheered and Batista was booed. Now, both sides flipped over. Undertaker was the babyface, Batista was the heel. And I liked what Batista did here, and I just wished we got a bit more out of it. One of my other favourite moments from that time was Undertaker was making his way to the ring to call out Batista, and Batista would sneak in and attack Undertaker from behind with a steel chair. Now, it's very rare you see someone attack Undertaker during his entrance. I think the only other person I can think of who did something like that, I think, was Stone Cold. I think. I could be wrong, but I think it was Stone Cold who may have done something like that. I mean, if anyone can remember, please let me know. But I'm pretty sure Stone Cold did that, and Batista just wore out the Undertaker with the steel chair. bear in mind he already attacked him the week before, so he attacked him again, gave him a big spine buster on the chair, ripped his shirt off, held the world title, says, "Come on!" And you just thought, wow, okay, this isn't the same Batista Undertaker faced in 2007. This is a different Batista. This is a more focused Batista. This isn't the babyface Batista. This is a monster. And they had a great match at TLC 2009. I think their 2007 matches were better, but it was still enjoyable. And Batista went into the Royal Rumble 2010. He didn't win it, obviously, but he still kicked ass. And around this time, Batista started to behave more like a douche, or as one of my friends refer to him as douche tista, or douche tista, or something like that. He really started to behave like a douche, and he would win the WWE title at Elimination Chamber 2010, thanks to Vince McMahon, who screwed John Cena after he won the WWE title. And this would begin a very entertaining feud between John Cena and Batista. And one of Batista's best promos around this time was when he said to Cena, "Stone Cold passed the torch to you. While you're out there kissing babies and fat girls, I'll be in the gym working out, figuring out different ways that I can hurt you." Woohoo! Brilliant promo. Absolutely brilliant promo. And he really owned John Cena. I mean, unfortunately, he didn't beat him at WrestleMania 26 as he dropped the WWE title to John Cena. And then they would face again at Extreme Rules 2010 in a last man standing match where John Cena retained the WWE title, and then he would face Batista again at Over the Limit 2010 in an I Quit match where John Cena forced Batista to utter the words "I quit." So, that was kind of the failure for me because John Cena owned Batista at every pay per view. I would have liked to have seen Batista at least win one of those matches, but John Cena, he won all of them. But the whole build up leading up to WrestleMania 26 was excellent. I thought Batista done some of his best promo work as a heel during that time. I thought he looked really good, and I just would have liked to have seen him win one of those three matches during that time. But it is what it is. But I think with Batista, just going back to his whole heel run, he's a much better heel and he looks much more comfortable. He's more himself and he's a natural. When he was a babyface, he was a great babyface, but I think what happened was, through no fault of his, obviously, they tried to tone him down a little bit. And I think after, you know, he left Evolution, he was on fire and he had a great feud with Triple H. And the JBL stuff I didn't care for, as I said before. The feud with The Undertaker was legendary. Maybe they should have turned him heel there. I think that should have been the right time because if you want to get nuclear heat, there's no better person to get it from by attacking someone as super loved as The Undertaker. I think that should have been the time, but they didn't do it. But it is what it is. But Batista showed that when he's a heel, there's very few that can touch him. So the night after Over the Limit, Batista came out in a wheelchair and his arm in a sling. Sort of thing you would have seen in the Attitude Era, like Vince McMahon coming out in the wheelchair after Undertaker and Kane broke his leg, something like that. And Batista would cut this fiery promo saying how much the fans need him more than he needs them, and this place will fall apart without me. And he would finally utter the words that I quit. Now, I thought when he said this, I thought, okay, he'll be gone for a few months and then he'll be back. He really did quit. He was gone, finished. And he later revealed that, you know, Batista quit because he didn't like the direction the company was going in due to the whole PG thing, which I don't blame him. But, Batista, he went back to being a heel and he absolutely rocked it. He kicked ass, got to be champion one more time. He was just amazing. And I've always looked at that run from 2009 to 2010 as his best work ever. And after Batista left WWE, he went into movies, and wow, he absolutely kicked ass on the big screen and still doing it to this day as we speak. And I would go on record to say that out of John Cena, The Rock, and Batista, for me, Batista as an actor pisses on them too. He really does. He showed that he's got far more range and he's highly versatile. And it proved it, just in his heel work alone. He could be funny, he can be serious, he can be downright scary. He can do all these different things. And I think that really shows in his acting range as you watch his movies. He's just so versatile. And he's such a natural heel. He really is. He looks like a heel. He acts like a heel. He walks like a heel. Everything about him screams heel. Now, in terms of the success and failures, I'm going to go out and say this heel run of Batista's from 2009 to 2010 was a complete success. The only failure, I would say, is I would have liked to have seen him beat John Cena at least once during that time. I know he did beat him at SummerSlam 2008 and he pinned him at Elimination Chamber 2010 to become WWE Champion. But I would have liked to have seen him pick up one more victory, just one more out of that three. Yes, Cena could have got his two more wins after, but to beat him three straight times, yeah, doesn't really sit well with me. But Batista has always proven to be a team player. If you ask him to do the job to someone, he'll do it. I've never really heard Batista complaining about refusing to do certain things. He's always been a team player, and I respect him for that. And his heel work was tremendous. At times, it did kind of remind me of Kanye West, during the Slammy Awards, but he was a great heel. I love the stuff with Rey Mysterio. Just going back to that for a second, it's funny with a guy like Rey Mysterio. He's the babyface, but yet everyone turns on him. Maybe he's the problem. Who knows? But that stuff with Rey Mysterio was entertaining. I loved that. I think that is probably my favourite feud out of Batista's entire heel run from that time. The John Cena stuff, the build up was great, but I think I like the Rey Mysterio stuff just a little bit more because he just absolutely killed him. The Undertaker stuff was great. Maybe should have lasted a bit longer, but they only had one match during that time, so that's fair enough. We already had like what 5 or 7 matches with Undertaker versus Batista, so maybe one more was fine. But would have liked to have seen that feud go on just a little bit longer, but it was fine. But the Rey Mysterio stuff was my favourite. He just absolutely owned him. But yeah, I loved his heel run. It was great. And, seeing him standing there with the shades and the jacket, great stuff. I loved it. And I won't lie, I did miss Batista because I was a little bit bummed out that he was gone because when he quit, I thought, okay, he's just going to take some time off and then he'll be back for SummerSlam. But he never did show up because I would have liked to have seen him play a part in the whole Nexus angle. I think it would have been interesting to see where he would have fitted in that time frame, but sadly we missed out on that because I think the whole thing against the Nexus, I think he would have fitted in really nicely, and I would have liked to have seen him deliver spine busters to Wade Barrett and all of the Nexus members. I think that would have been a lot of fun. And I would have liked to have seen Batista stick around for maybe a little bit longer, maybe as a heel. We could have got maybe a couple more months out of it, and then he could have just turned back into a babyface around SummerSlam time when the Nexus were causing a lot of trouble. But what we did get was great. I loved it. I wouldn't change anything about it, except maybe could have beaten John Cena one more time. But I enjoyed his heel run. I still to this day, out of everything Batista has done, that's my favourite heel run. He was just amazing and so fun and so entertaining. So anyway, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of Batista's heel run from 2009 to 2010? Did you enjoy it? What was your favourite feud during that run? Was it against Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, or against John Cena? How did you guys feel when Batista turned on Rey Mysterio? Were you shocked? Did you find it entertaining? Or did you see it coming? And also, would you have liked to have seen the heel run last maybe a little bit longer? Were you a bit bummed out that he quit? And also, do you look at Batista's 2009 to 2010 heel run as a success or as a failure? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.